December 26, 1996, Boulder, Colorado. A 6-year-old girl is reported missing from her family home on Christmas morning. Police arrive at 5:52 a.m. 7 hours later, she is found. Not through a search of the neighborhood, not through a tip, not through any investigative breakthrough. She is found in the basement of her own house, hidden under a blanket in the darkest corner of a wine cellar. Her name was JonBenét Ramsey, and her case has remained unsolved for nearly 30 years. But in 2025, something happened that few expected. Investigators announced they had found new evidence. DNA that has existed since the very beginning may finally be ready to speak if anyone is willing to listen. JonBenét Patricia Ramsey was born on August 6, 1990, in Atlanta, Georgia. Her father, John Ramsey, was a successful businessman, the CEO of Access Graphics, a computer company that would later become a subsidiary of Lockheed Martin. Her mother, Patsy Ramsey, was a former beauty queen herself, Miss West Virginia, 1977, and she introduced her daughter to the child pageant circuit early. By the age of 6, JonBenét had already won titles including Little Miss Colorado, Little Miss Charlevoix, and National Tiny Miss Beauty. On stage, with her curled blonde hair and heavy makeup, she looked far older than she was. This detail would later draw enormous public scrutiny, but it would ultimately lead investigators nowhere near the truth. On Christmas Day 1996, the Ramseys spent the evening at the home of their close friends Fleet and Priscilla White for a holiday dinner. The atmosphere was warm and festive. JonBenét received a bicycle as a Christmas gift. The family returned home around 10 p.m., and Patsy later said she put the children to bed. Everything seemed perfectly normal. Nothing suggested this would be the last ordinary night the family would ever have. The following morning, December 26th, Patsy Ramsey woke before the rest of the household. At around 5:30 a.m., she came downstairs and found something on the back staircase that should not have been there. A 2.5-page handwritten letter, a ransom note. The letter demanded $118,000 for the return of JonBenét, $100,000 in $100 bills, and the remaining $18,000 in $20 bills. The amount was precise, not a round number, not a random figure, exactly $118,000. The same amount as John Ramsey's Christmas bonus that year, a figure that was not publicly known. Patsy called 911 at 5:52 a.m. "We have a kidnapping," she said. Her voice was frantic. After several hours passed with no contact from the supposed kidnappers, Boulder Police Detective Linda Arndt asked John Ramsey and his friend Fleet White to search the house. But in the hours between the 911 call and that decision, a critical mistake had already been made. Because police were treating this as a kidnapping and not a murder, friends, a priest, and neighbors had been allowed to move freely through the house. Potential evidence was being contaminated before anyone understood what kind of crime had actually taken place. The ransom note opens with the words, "We are a group of individuals that represent a small foreign faction. We respect your business, but not the country that it serves." It claimed that JonBenét was safe and unharmed. It gave specific instructions for how to withdraw and package the money. It warned John Ramsey to be rested because the delivery instructions would be exhausting. It threatened that if he contacted police or the FBI, his daughter would be killed. And it ended with a line that former FBI agents have noted sounds lifted directly from the movie Speed. "Don't try to grow a brain." It also referred to John's good Southern common sense. Despite the fact that John Ramsey was not Southern at all, he was born in Nebraska and attended school in Michigan. Whoever wrote this note knew certain intimate financial details about the family, but got basic personal facts wrong. That contradiction has never been explained. Experts estimated the note would have taken approximately 21.5 minutes to write. It was composed on paper from a notepad found in the Ramsey home, using a pen also found in the home. That means whoever wrote it was inside the house, sitting down for over 20 minutes, composing a multi-page document while a child lay dead or dying nearby. The phone call promised in the note to come between 8 and 10 a.m. never came. Investigators called on some of the nation's most notable handwriting experts, including Vassar Professor Donald Foster. The Colorado Bureau of Investigation ruled that John Ramsey did not write the letter. Their findings regarding Patsy Ramsey were inconclusive. Renowned forensic scientist Dr. Henry Lee said the writing appeared more consistent with a female hand, but added that nobody could realistically testify that Patsy Ramsey wrote it. A federal court later ruled that abundant evidence demonstrated the innocence of all the Ramseys, and yet the authorship question has never been definitively closed. Some analysts pointed to linguistic patterns in the note that mirrored Patsy Ramsey's own writing style. Others argued the misspellings were deliberate, designed to suggest the writer had poor English, a form of disguise. Forensic linguist James Fitzgerald noted that misspelling serves as an element of disguise, and that the font-style printing was a feminine trait also seen in Patsy Ramsey's handwriting. Nearly 30 years later, we still do not know with certainty whose hand produced those 2.5 pages. That afternoon, around 1 p.m., John Ramsey and Fleet White went down to the basement. They moved through several rooms. John Ramsey opened the door to a small side room secured with a wooden latch, a room the first responding officer had never opened. And there he found his daughter. JonBenét was lying on the floor, covered with a blanket and a sweatshirt. Her wrists were bound, tape covered her mouth, and a white synthetic cord, a garrote, was tied around her neck so tightly it had left a deep furrow in her skin. The garrote had been made from a length of nylon cord wrapped around the broken handle of a paintbrush. Part of the bristle end of that same paintbrush was later found in a tub containing Patsy's art supplies, but the bottom third of it was never found, despite extensive searching. John Ramsey picked up his daughter and carried her upstairs. He disturbed the crime scene. Whether that was the act of a father in shock or something else, we cannot know. But it meant that irreplaceable forensic information was lost in that moment. The blanket and sweatshirt covering JonBenét's body were examined by investigators, but they were never conclusively linked to a specific person. They appeared to belong to the household. As for the cause of death, the medical examiner ruled it as asphyxia by strangulation associated with craniocerebral trauma. She suffocated due to the cord around her neck and had been struck very hard in the head before she died. Her death was ruled a homicide. This was not an accident. The skull fracture, the garrote, the bound wrists, these do not happen by chance. From the very beginning, suspicion fell on the Ramseys. This is statistically understandable. In cases involving the murder of a child, the perpetrator is most often someone within the family circle. Police and media constructed a narrative in which the parents were responsible. John and Patsy Ramsey refused to speak with investigators without their attorneys present, which is their legal right, but which in the public eye read as guilt. Their first formal police interview did not take place until April 1997, 4 months after the murder. A grand jury heard the case throughout 1998 and 1999. The jurors voted to indict the Ramseys on charges of child endangerment and obstruction, but the district attorney declined to prosecute, citing insufficient evidence. The case remained open. And then, in 2008, a piece of evidence arrived that changed everything. In 2008, the Boulder County DNA Laboratory reanalyzed samples collected from JonBenét's underwear and leggings using more advanced techniques. The result was unambiguous. Male DNA was present on the clothing. It did not match John Ramsey. It did not match Burke, JonBenét's 9-year-old brother. It did not match anyone in the Ramsey family, any of their friends, or any of the suspects investigated over the previous 12 years. There was an unknown man, biologically proven to have been in contact with JonBenét, but with no name, no face, no identity. On the basis of this finding, the district attorney issued a public apology to the Ramsey family and officially announced they had been cleared of all suspicion. 10 years of public accusation, media condemnation, and institutional suspicion, undone by a single DNA result. Patsy Ramsey never heard it. She had died of ovarian cancer 2 years earlier, in 2006, without ever seeing her name cleared. This is the deepest question in the entire case. We have DNA. We have biological proof that an unidentified person was physically present with JonBenét, and yet nearly 3 decades later, that person has never been identified. Why? The first answer is practical. In 1996, the forensic databases, the genealogical DNA tools, and the investigative methods that now routinely solve cold cases simply did not exist. The second answer is more troubling. John Ramsey revealed that 6 or 7 evidence packages sent to laboratories in the early stages of the investigation were returned untested, including the garrote used to strangle his daughter. He has stated publicly, if it stays in the hands of the Boulder police, it will not be solved, period. We do not know who made that decision, but it means that some of the most critical physical evidence in this case has never been fully examined. In December 2025, the Boulder Police Department issued their annual update on the case, and this time, it contained something different. They confirmed they had collected and tested new evidence, though they did not specify what. They also referenced new witness interviews, including re-interviews of people connected to the original investigation. The Colorado Bureau of Investigation is currently testing dozens of items, including the knots of the garrote itself. The family's former defense attorney has pushed specifically for this. Knots retain biological material from whoever tied them, and the garrote knots are described as sophisticated, not something an amateur would naturally produce. Partial genetic profiles have reportedly been identified on 2 separate items, with further comparative testing expected to conclude in early 2026. We do not yet know those results, but for the first time in a long time, this case appears to be moving. JonBenét Ramsey was a 6-year-old child who died on Christmas night in her own home. Her death was not an accident. The medical examiner ruled it a homicide, and the evidence supports that conclusion entirely. Her case has stayed open for nearly 30 years, not because evidence doesn't exist, but because critical mistakes were made early, and because the investigation spent years looking in the wrong direction. The crime scene was contaminated. Evidence was returned untested. Public suspicion targeted an innocent family. But the DNA has never gone away, and DNA does not age. The unknown man whose biological trace was found on JonBenét's clothing is either still out there, or his relatives are. And with modern genealogical DNA analysis, the same method used to finally identify the Golden State Killer, that trace can be followed through a family tree until it leads to a name. The question is no longer whether it's possible. The question is whether someone will finally do it. JonBenét's story is not over. So, do you think JonBenét's case will ever be solved? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to follow this case as it develops, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It genuinely helps more than you know.